Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Martin, and I have used Bizagi for many years, helping to implement various automated processes. Over time, I have noticed a common pattern. Many organizations want true end-to-end automation, but they hit a wall when it comes to connecting systems. APIs are different, there's complex authentication mechanisms, data structures don't match, and suddenly automation becomes a struggle. And this is exactly where Bizagi Custom Connectors become a game changer. I have created these videos to share everything I have learned over the years. Whether you are just starting with Bizagi or you already have some experience, my goal is to take you from beginner to pro in building enterprise-level integrations. In today's video, we will start with the basics. What type of connectors there are, when you should use them, understand basics of Bizagi Studio user interface, and at the end we will build a small utility function. Bizagi offers many pre-built connectors, which actually all are custom connectors that you can download, customize, and use for your integration needs. It also has native connectors with popular systems as SAP, RPA solutions, Azure, and even Excel itself. But most important, Bizagi offers creation of your own connectors that you can use to tailor your various integration use cases. There are three ways how you can build connectors. One is to use editor, which is already built into the studio. Second, to use Bizagi Web Editor, which has one advantage because you don't need developer license. And my favorite one is to use Visual Studio Code because then you get much better autocomplete and assistance from AI. Let's explore Connector Editor. You can find it in expert mode under API connectors when adding new connector. When selecting building your own, you'll have multiple choices. Custom connectors is the one you're looking for. At the top, you'll have main metadata about the connector as a name, version. When working with the versions, it's important to understand how versioning works in Bizagi Studio. In short, I recommend to increment only the patch number because then there will be no need to maintain multiple versions. On the left side, you can add as many actions as you need. Each action will have its inputs and outputs. Inputs are the ones which will pass from the case, and outputs will be the data structure which you will get back to the process. On the top right corner, you can specify the globals. Globals are environment-specific parameters. For example, API URL. One tip, you can add default values. Just remember to hit enter button, and this will create a drop-down. When you create a system configuration, you will be able to choose from predefined list of values. Under authentication, you can specify all the secrets. When you will choose the authentication custom, you'll be able to key them in, and they will not be stored in a plain text. Also, when you will export the package, secrets will be protected by Bizagi encryption mechanism. Under errors, you can specify predefined error list, which you can then use in a code. But in my personal experience, I almost never use this option. Under ouch.js is a separate invoke method or additional action where you implement your authentication mechanism, if you have any. For example, when you need to call third-party service to obtain API key. In case you use Bizagi Web Editor, you need to select Expert. UI will look similar, but with some slight differences. Still on the left side you have actions, at the bottom you have inputs and outputs, and on the right side you have your global parameters, where you can specify API URLs. Authentication file is hidden under the authentication tab. One big difference is that you will need to download your connector package and then upload into the studio. Advantage to this approach is that you will always have all the historical versions which you have created, allowing you easily roll back if there is a need. Now let's build simple utility connector. We will use specific math function which accepts XY arguments and based on those calculate angle. I will add modifications to existing connector. I will rename the action so that it's more specific. For now, let's not change anything in invoke function, but start with the input and output definition. So we will need two inputs, X and Y. Both will be integers, and we will have only one output, which is angle. As you can see, there are different data types, and it's crucial to select the right ones. In next videos, we will explore in details each data type. We will start implementation of invoke method. First, we need to specify inputs which will be passed from the process. We will define x, y values, and they can be accessed from data.input.value of your input which was specified previously. I will not add any validations, but in next videos, we will take a look how to do the validation set defaults, and effectively map the inputs. Let's use math function to calculate the angle. What is nice that Bizagi built-in editor has some autocomplete capabilities and provides description of the built-in functions. As first function returns angle in radians, we need to do the conversion. So let's add additional line of the logic, which will multiply value by 180 and divide by p. This will give us exact value in degrees, not radians. Even if we have one output, I recommend to create a result object and specify the attributes. In this case, we will have angle as our output and value will be taken from variable degrees. If you are a beginner and find hard to follow, don't worry. In next videos, I will go line by line and explain each technical detail. Now let's construct the response object. We need to pass our result object null, because second input attribute is only for error case, and 200 as a positive status code. And the last thing, we need to use callback function to return final result to our process. Your connector action always must return callback. And before saving the changes, I recommend to increment the version. This will ensure that the cache is cleaned, and when you are testing connector, it will always use the latest version. Let's save changes and add connector to our process. I will call connector from user interface. On the form, I have two input fields and third field to display the result. I will add new action, and from action, I will call my invoke function to get the result. If you haven't used form action, then this is the place where you can add some dynamics to the user interface. We will not dig into the details of the form actions, but there will be a completely separate course dedicated to the forms. Here we can see the connector and available actions. Also we can see the version, and if we would have added description of the action, that would be visible here. For our action, we need to pass inputs from our Bizagi case data model to the connector input structure, and in the last step, we need to define the output mapping. So on the left side, we can see the outputs which are available connector, and on the right side, we have a case data model. In a separate video, we will have a deeper dive into the error handling, so for now, I will leave default values. Last thing which I need to do is to refresh the angle value on the UI after connector has been executed. I will save the changes and try to execute connector. Here we are in a Bizagi work portal and user task. I will input X and Y values and check if angle is calculated. As example, if we enter values 10 and 10, angle should be 45 degrees. On first execution, it might take a time because connector is deployed. We will have a separate video dedicated to the connector deployment process. And we can see that the result is 45. If we change Y value to 0, which means that point will be located on the X axis, angle should be exactly 0 degrees. And opposite, if we change X to 0 and Y to 10, this should produce 90 degrees. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we'll have a deep dive into the connector API. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what topics you would like to see next.